happy to turn it over to the Veterans Village team.
Hi, so our team, Dylan Lockwood, Pandora Patterson, and myself, Michelle Berteau, and we're hoping to take maybe 7 minutes. We're going to try to finish in the 20-minute range, so it's just our goal. So I'm going to start with the vision statement, and then Dylan's going to talk about the social permaculture, and Pandora has a lot of digital video and some shots and so forth, and then it'll come back to me, and we'll wrap with a paper design of an alternate design. So beginning with the vision statement, keeping in mind the core intentions of permaculture around people care, earth care, and surplus share. Our vision was to develop a permaculture design of a transitional village for houseless veterans. The design to focus on elements of sustainability, education, and empowerment in service of the ultimate goal of creating for veterans a safe space where they can experience community, develop their personal competencies, and heal. So this community will also be encouraged to share with new residents coming in as people transition in and out, and also with others outside the village from their spirit and their talents and their efforts, including in the proposed shop and the gardens.
So, although it would be pretty rad to have all this memorized, I actually really like the way I've structured this, so I'm going to kind of mostly read from it. Veterans Village is a transitional housing project that will hopefully be open for residency this July. As part of a survey taken by Clackamas County, the one unanimously agreed upon point by homeless veterans is that it be other veterans who are there to support them. The county representative who has really thrown himself into this project, Vahid Brown, said that lived experience goes a lot deeper than just compassion. Studies have shown that homeless civilians respond pretty well to institutional forms of support, such as further education, but programs like these have very little impact on homeless veterans, who instead respond very well to initiatives that build personal relationships and networks. I think a common issue that arises with projects or design is that the ideal scenario doesn't really come to fruition, and that can be kind of frustrating. After talking to Vahid Brown, it seems like, shockingly and amazingly, that seems to be the case for Veterans Village. Is all the social systems and invisible structures are being implemented to the maximum of their potential. For example, Do Good Multnomah is a nonprofit run by veterans, and they will have 2 full-time employees with experience in helping people find housing on site, one of whom will also be a peer support specialist who is formally equipped to handle issues that stem from addiction, mental health, and incarceration-influenced issues. The village will be governed by a council of residents elected by residents, and although a few legal requirements will make their way into the community agreements, such as no alcohol or drugs, even those will be chosen by their council, and except in extreme cases of violence, repercussions for violating the agreements will aim toward non-displacement. Participation in programs will be entirely optional, and everyone is welcome to stay for a loosely enforced maximum of around 2 years. Of the 3 larger donors of food, 2 of the organizations are run by veterans. A group called Food by Design might be involved with food production on site, and their mission is to mentor houseless people in pursuit of self-sufficiency through an urban farm training program. So in talking about support and empowerment for these veterans, the cherry on top of this whole social permaculture design is that they've even thought about the animal systems, in that the county was excited and totally down to allow their pets on site, which, could be a divisive, kind of complicated situation. But I think those of us who have pets, who have had pets, understand that relationship and know how vital that relationship is for personal, well-being. Due to budget constraints, the phases of this site over a 2 to 3 year timeline is pretty interesting. For example, the proposed shop did not make it through the first budget, basically. It is still approved, and it's such an integral part of the village, in the sense that both Vahid Brown and our design team see the future of this village as being kind of a micro enterprise that produces pods for future villages. Since the shop is going to be it's going to be there basically as a way for veterans to build the other 15 pods that can go on site. Thinking creatively about how this could be a positive thing, that the shop isn't exactly happening in phase 1, is that the first set of veterans will have time living in these pods to then contribute their own experience to the design of future pods. And that's something that I think it's actually kind of a happy accident. Let's see. Do Good Multnomah is going to receive a yearly budget, and I think that given the whole principle of veterans being self-governed and empowering of each other, and that being the best way for them to really turn their lives into a direction that's beneficial for them. I like the idea that they can decide for themselves what path the future of the village is going to take. So yes, I mean, in the design you have there's plenty of space on the site, but it's all pretty much, except for some nooks and crannies accounted for by the approved design. The swales and the pod design, the mod buildings. So yes, we could draw rain barrels and solar panels on some of the buildings, but I think that, again, in keeping with the whole theme of giving these guys control of their own future, that might be something that is up to them. They're the ones living there, it's their village, and it's built for them. So, that's it. As an alternative, yes. As an alternative to trying to do what we can to implement permaculture concepts in the pre-approved site plan, Pandora and Michelle have both drawn up alternative designs that are better, I think, that are more integrative of the permaculture concepts, which are now what they can present.
So I was happy to get this project because about 15 years ago, my sister disappeared, and she ended up homeless on the streets. And eventually, after about 5 years, she started to contact us, and she would call me and tell me about places that she lived, like, a shed in the back of people's houses, or conditions that I wouldn't be able to endure, and not being able to get help with, like, hooking up heat. She was very cold. So I know how easy it is to get lost in this world, and for that to happen to anybody, because we had a supportive family. We were very surprised that this happened, and I'm happy to have her back now. But we have some alternative designs. Actually, this one is very close to the design that the team drew up. in that they have these sleeping pods that go around a pathway, and then the garden systems. And then they have some common buildings. This is the shop here. Oh, thank you. So yeah, then they have water, some water catchment swales. Then I've added, you know, like a rec area and a compost, but didn't add much else. So I have a couple other, I have another design to show you actually. Are we done with that one? Okay.
I don't think everyone's familiar with what the red buildings are.
The common buildings would be like,
So
would be, yeah, go ahead.
Everyone taking pictures?
the red buildings are mod buildings that are being leased from a company that's supplying them on a 2 to 3 year leasing. They're the ones tied into the grid for you know, like plumbing and electricity and stuff like that for kind of standard bathrooms and showers and washing machines and offices.
This is the kitchen and common space. This is bathrooms,
And
laundry, and office,
office,
and
yeah.
that's the shop
Yeah.
to be later.
And this is the, there's actually a cliff that's right there that, you know, the terrain goes down very steeply right there. Okay, next.
Yeah,
All right,
give me more.
more to hold.
Give me to work.
Okay, let's see here. Should I reach out this one? All right, so this one, my helper here. You can't see what's going on back there. Okay, so this one, I've moved the common buildings so that the office is connected to the rest, because I think the people in the office that are managing the system should interact more with the people who live there. We've moved the pods because of the way they were facing. We thought some people would be liking to be in the sun and some wanting to be in the shade. So this area is kind of a forested area, so that's nice and shady, and these pods would be in the sun. These are the ADA accessible pods. So that's connected to a wood deck, and this is the hummingbird, butterfly and bee garden. And then we have an amphitheater here. This is the recreational area. This would be like raised garden beds. That's the compost, in-ground garden, and the dog run over here. And then we have a woodland garden. So these gardens up here would have perennial edibles and native plants. And these over here would have mosquito repellent plants and native plants. And then we have water catchment off of the roof here going down into the swales. And we also have water catchment off of the pods, which I'm going to show you in the other presentation here. So what do I do? Hit mute over here?
Yeah, mute AV will turn the projector back on. It's on the bottom of the remote. Just aim it, there you go. And then just
Okay.
move the trackpad and hit play.
I move the trackpad. Okay, and hit that.
And then move it off of the play button and then it'll go away.
Okay. So this is our alternative pod design. So we have rain chains coming down with the water catchment. This one filters the water so they can use it to wash dishes or maybe for a dog bowl, you know, to dog water. And this one would be a bucket for like watering the garden. Inside is a bed frame, and there's a high countertop that could be used for a kitchen or crafts, and a cupboard above it that could be used either for dishes or books. And then a low countertop would be for a desk. It would be able, you know, for a wheelchair to go under it. Inside here next to the door, there's space so that they could put their wheelchair or something tall that won't fit somewhere else. And then there is a loft for storage. Up on the top, there are windows that louver so that they can get a good airflow out of that. And then the deck comes down and goes across the swale. So the swale goes in and waters the gardens that are down there. So that's that. How do I turn this off? AV? Okay. So I have a blow up also of the gardens. Okay. Let's see. I need to go this way. Okay, rotate. There you go. All right. So this is the blow up of the hummingbird, butterfly, and bee garden. And then we have the rainwater catchment, swales, the mosquito and native garden, and perennial vegetable and native garden, and then the woodland amphitheater garden. So these are all the plants that would go in there, and some sample photos. Really, they're from Kailash over there. Whatever I could find that would work. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
No,
No? Okay.
pretty rad.
Yeah, we thought the pods could also have fencing around it so they could have their companion animal nearby.
Can you kind of leave those out, but maybe behind you,
Yeah,
as we go?
okay. Okay.
So, this is like sketching out just very loosely an alternative design that focuses on the sun, and it's oriented so that we're looking south. So imagine that you're coming in off the road, the gate is over here, and as you look south, this whole common area is completely open. So we visited on the solstice in December, and because this is a wooded slope, but it's very steep, it goes down. As you come in and you look, if it were December, whatever it is, 20th or something, on a sunny day, you would have sun the whole day. It would rise in the southeast, set in the southwest. And so there is really a lot of opportunity for utilizing the sun. And I don't have that much time, so that's probably the main thing I'm going to be focusing on in this. So, because I'm not much of a drafter, I basically, for a couple reasons, took the prior, this is the plan that Communitexture had already done and probably will be implemented. But I tried to make just some small changes still in that framework that better utilized or more fully utilized the sun. So I took the common building and oriented it this way, with the idea that, winter sun would come in, people hanging out, they would get that sun. And this is now the office, restrooms, and laundry. The yellow represents a potential for solar panels, including maybe an array over the allotted parking spaces here. And also just demonstrating that maybe the pods could be oriented so that for, I think, both mental health reasons, for spiritual reasons, having access to the sun in those times of year when it's not around much can make a big deal of difference. So just turning those without changing a lot around that. My time here.
So the other ones being in the shade.
Well, I didn't even draw those in because my hope was that maybe we could refigure these a little bit so that the biggest shady area when we visited in December was over here. There were a lot of existing trees, and I visited recently, and a lot of big earth-moving, bulldozy, dragging down things that were driving around, but they did seem to be saving some trees. So I think maybe the ones that are still on the Communitexture's drawing are the ones, there was netting around some of them. It was a beautiful stand of bamboo, and I don't really see that there, so that might be gone. Another advantage of this orientation towards the sun is putting the raised beds here. There is kind of a, what do they call, a sun trap effect here, which could be beneficial both for the space where the veterans hang out, like this is the courtyard and there's a little fire pit there and some seating. And as well, I just got to speak to the view. Looking south into this place, not only do you have the tops of these trees, but at a distance, there's a beautiful vista. I mean, a kind of in the distance, you can see wooded hills. And I believe, and I think there's research, that the more nature and the more presence of nature, the more healing it is for people's spirits. And what else could I say about the sun? Well, light, light is from the sun too. So I drew in some little potential skylights to help with daylighting, so that there's less energy use. My topic was kind of energy, so some windmills possibly could be there because there is nothing. Summer winds come from here, winter winds come from here and here. There's really nothing blocking the wind in the way the site is now, and all of these things all of these buildings are pretty low. What else do I want to say? Well, it's enough of that. I'll just point out what these other pictures are. This is a potential guild for the raised beds, stuff that people would eat with a key. This is a picture from 2016 that my grandson drew. He was 5 years old. He drew this picture and he explained it to his mother, so she wrote it down. And it says, "Mom, I figured it out. The builders get to work and build some houses for the homeless people, and then they don't have to be homeless anymore. Then they can help to build more houses so no one has to be homeless." So children got it together. I'm going to close this with this poem that was shared at an event I went to that was put on by people who were formerly houseless. So this is a poem by someone who had been through that situation, and it's called "Standing" by Jason Kirk. Picking myself up and knocking off dust, bystanders looking on, checking the progress, changing the way I see the world. Change that I needed for myself, I offer to others. Warmth, comfort, and a hand to pull me from the depths. Standing for myself then, standing for others now. Standing for the ones who can't, reaching into the depths for a hand. I did not anticipate that. Standing with and never on top of my fellow. When we stand together, no one gets left behind. I live 5 minutes. You? I got it.
I think we can move this down.
Yeah, did anybody have questions? Donna?
Yeah, I had a question. I remember reading an article about the women's village, and one of the real problems was they were cold. And it sounds like the pods don't have electricity. I just wonder how the pods are kept warm, or if they are.
So the temporary solution to that is something that is pretty common in Japan, which is a yutenpo, which is like basically a big insulated water balloon that is heated with warm water and can be wrapped and slipped between their blankets and the mattress to keep them warm during the night. But the long-term solution is something more of a centralized radiator that Vahid touched on, but we didn't really go into great detail. So that's something that we're hoping that can get implemented into phase 2 before winter. Worst case scenario, phase 3 or 4, since it does seem like it would take quite a bit of dough.
Yeah, he actually said there was a commitment, that the county had a commitment to have heat by winter. And it was this thing that we just found this out recently. So it was some kind of a thing that then ran hot water in tubes into each pod. So it would be radiant hot water heat. And apparently maybe a Japanese system, but we didn't get the details till. So that was good. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I really liked your video for the pods and like seeing the whole house. I was wondering if you had like an accessibility unit for people, because you said to put the wheelchairs, but I noticed there was stairs. So is there like a ramp you guys have designed for some of them, or like a portable ramp?
Oh, right. So in this one, we had this deck that comes out. So these pods do not have stairs. The deck goes directly
Sweet.
up to it. So they are different, and there's no swale system on that
Nice.
side.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Anything else?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, this is it's a pretty big scale to work with, and you seem to have been able to address it and work with it without a challenge, without it being difficult. So. I'm saying that it made it look easy.
All right then.
You know, usually I think that most permaculture courses would be dealing with a much smaller scale, like a homestead and the concerns of one family or something. And this is multi-family in a way. It's political. There's lots of infrastructure. So it has a lot of complexity of a larger scale. And I think it's really wonderful. It's kind of like a visual extravaganza here. We have
A variety.
different approaches and different, like, I love that we get to see such a diversity of different approaches, like to respond to what has already been designed and then to question it and or toss it out and try another idea and then the really hand-drawn one that is might seem more crude, but it isn't. It's very energetic, very wonderful to look at. And I think it's that one is definitely an improvement. They're all wonderful and they all have improvement aspects. That one is so directly similar to the one that's
The
being
original.
implemented, and I think it's an improvement in almost every way. Tweaking the pods so that they actually respond to the sun. You really enriched the public area, and you're right, it's a sun trap and you treated it that way. I think the only thing I might be challenged by there is the changing of the location of the bathroom, just because it means that they have to go farther at night or something. But other than that one piece, I really thought it was great, a great improvement. And the pod design, frankly, those pods look like military space capsules or something, the ones that are out there that have been built.
The like triangular, they
Yeah.
have a roof angle on the top, and then they have roofs on the sides, so they're pointing on the sides.
And there's many problems about them that I won't go into now, but it's an example of architects trying too hard. The one that you showed is beautiful and practical, and people would, like, their hearts would relate to it. And it
You mean
wouldn't
the
have
one my
been-
grandson drew? Just kidding.
Your grandson's doing this whole, like, and the children will lead the earth kind of biblical thing there. That's really beautiful.
Anyway.
But, yeah, I think, I just want to say that it is a tragedy that the workshop's not happening. That's a permaculture move to say that we don't just house people while they're feeling destitute, but we give them purpose. And then we get more out of the project by them helping to build the infrastructure for more people.
And just
Yeah,
to clarify,
Oh,
go ahead.
yeah, that's why I put more energy into the garden area, because I once met this guy. He owned a construction business, but he used to help people that were getting out of prison that were mentally ill, and his program was a garden program. And he said there was nothing better for, getting people started and activated in life. And he was sad that they cut the funding, all the mental health funding has been cut.
So cool.
So we are at time, and I just want to say in front of everyone, thank you for bringing so much intention to this design.
You're
Beautiful.
welcome.